We are live for day 5 of 21 days of wellness. And I tell you, it's been absolutely phenomenal just up to these 5 days. And we have yesterday talked about wealth wellness. And I tell you, it was a most exciting experience to share that and be able to still, kind of just ruminate on it after that. But today, we're going to be talking about mindset wellness from the standpoint of why mindset is not fluff, why mindset wellness is not fluff, why mindset wellness is not fluff. And let me tell you very clearly, we unfortunately live in an environment, a society, and an economy where people believe that focusing on mindset is fluff. Focusing on mindset wellness is fluff. Even focusing on wellness is fluff. Well, I don't care, because I'm the wellness professor. And as such, you do what you do. You understand your uniqueness, and you understand the solution you provide. You understand the value that you give, and then you give it, right? And so as we talk about why mindset wellness is not fluff, it is absolutely important that you really gain some true perspective about the value of your mindset. And so I just want to give a little bit of that today. I can talk about mindset for years. I can talk about wealth for years. I can talk about leadership for years. It doesn't matter. I can talk about wellness forever. Why? Because I'm the wellness professor. Anyhow, let me get off my podium on that note. That was a digression. Let me share with you. So I've had the privilege to be in a number of different industries. Okay. I've been in the retail industry. I've been in the logistics industry, transportation industry. Some of these have overlapped. Been in the multifamily industry, the educational industry, been in the research industry, accounting industry. I can go down the list. And again, there's been some overlap here. But one of my most exciting industries to be in was connected with the trades in the HVAC industry. And I tell you, today I love the fact that I was a part of the HVAC industry, and there's some things that I got from the HVAC industry that was just magnificent. And one of the things I want to talk about in regard to why mindset wellness is not fluff is the thermostat. Let me tell you why I want to talk about the thermostat. Before I tell you why I want to talk about the thermostat, I'm going to tell you why I'm even bringing up the thermostat. It was because I was at a training, like a 3-day conference or something like that, a number of years back. And one of the speakers, who was actually a pretty close friend of mine, began to talk about the power of looking at mindset connected with the thermostat. And to be honest, he and I had never had a conversation about this. This is something that he was talking to probably maybe for one of the first times in front of this group. But man, he was talking my language. Why? He was talking my language. One, I was still working in the HVAC industry at the time on the administrative side and dealing with a lot of customer relations, all that kind of stuff, training, sales, etc. But I remembered when I was having to diagnose and fix problems connected with thermostats. And here's the thing. Let me tell you something about a thermostat, which you know, but I need to share this part with you at least. The thermostat is such that you have the need, the requirement to make sure you position that thermostat to know what needs to happen to the other components of your air conditioning or heating system. For example, whether you're doing heating or cooling, the same thing is true. Whether you have a communicating system or just a basic call and response type of system, the same thing is the case. You must put the temperature on the thermostat at a point, meaning you must set the temperature at a point on the thermostat that is going to enable the system to know that it needs to engage at a certain point. Here's what I mean. So if it's 50 degrees outside and that's cold and you want it to be warm on the inside, the set temperature, the set point of the thermostat must be above that of the temperatures on the outside. Why? Otherwise, if the temperature on the thermostat is less than 50 degrees, the heating function, the furnace or the heating element is not going to engage. On the other side, with regard to the cold, if it's 80 degrees outside and the thermostat is on 82, guess what? Your air conditioning, meaning your condensing unit on the outside and your either air handler or your your furnace blower and all that kind of stuff, it's not going to turn on. Why? Because you have an insufficient, inaccurate, inappropriate set point on the thermostat for it to engage what it is that needs to happen with your atmosphere. In the same way. Now, is anybody going to say that the set point on the thermostat is fluff? No. The set point on the thermostat is fluff because, to focus on that thermostat in its set point, it means nothing because that's just the set point. Nobody's going to say that. Why? Because there is an importance of the set point on the thermostat because that helps to determine what level of engagement must take place with the different components of that system. Okay. Well, what does that got to do with mindset, Leo? Let's talk about it. But before I get into talking about that, I want to give some of the definitions. Yesterday we talked about modern definitions of wealth, and then we talked about historical definitions of wealth. Well, we're going to do the same thing today. I want to give you a modern definition of mindset, and then I want to give you some historical definitions of mindset. Here's the modern definition. This is the primary one, and I was like, this is sufficient. The established set of attitudes held by someone. Okay, well, let me give you some detail as to why I said this was sufficient. Attitudes could actually be translated to the word beliefs. It could be translated to the word positions. It could be translated to the word values, ideologies. In other words, what it's saying is it is an established set of perspectives that are well accepted by someone. Well accepted and held by someone. Guess what? A company has a mindset. We actually use the term a culture. Man, they have a company culture. Matter of fact, I was listening to something the other day where they were talking about the power of the company culture of Chick-fil-A and how the power of that culture, it was a branding person. They talk about how, if you're going to be a franchisee, they're not just looking at the fact that you have the money. They're looking at the fact, okay, not only do you have the money, but do you ascribe to our values? Do you ascribe to our ideologies? Do you ascribe to we are closed on Sundays? Do you ascribe to these particular sets of ideals and perspectives and realities? If you do, guess what? Oh, we can figure out the money part because you bring in the mindset that is consistent with the Chick-fil-A brand. Mindset. That's the modern definition. But what's the historical definition? Watch this. In simplicity, you have examples like thoughts, purposes, which can be corresponded to the intentions. But then I love this one. This was my favorite. Inclinations. What are inclinations? Let me give you how it was written. A person's natural tendency or urge to act or feel in a particular way. In other words, their disposition or propensity. Okay, let's go back to the thermostat situation. Let's go back to the thermostat thought process. The thermostat has a very specific disposition such that it has a very specific point of setting in order to call for cooling or call for heating. Okay. So if the propensity of the thermostat as it relates to a set point is disrupted, whether there's an issue with the thermostat or there's an improper set point, it is not going to engage the functions of the system, the components of the system, consistent with the needs of the environment. And how's that like mindset? Well, a person's natural tendency, a person's urge to act or feel in a particular way is going to have a magnificent, a certain, an absolute effect on how they engage with the environment around them. And going back to what we're talking about, why mindset wellness is not fluff is because will you call your tendency that is natural to act or urge to feel in a particular way, will you call your disposition that affects your whole environment fluff? No. Not only that, will you call providing wellness for your mindset fluff? When here's the thing, with your thermostat, you want to make sure it's working well. If your system, hey, I have had a number of calls that I personally went on when I was actually in the field, not when I was on the administrative side, when I was in the field, where I would go in and simply the issue was that it was just a bad thermostat. Like you go in and take one wire and another wire and you put them together and do this and that and so on and so forth. And next thing you know, oh, your system comes on. Hey, looks like your thermostat is bad, because when the thermostat is not functioning properly and these particular wires are able to engage and actually turn on and function, guess what? There is an issue with the disposition or the propensity of your thermostat, because its set point is where it needs to be, but it's not engaging the way it needs to engage, specific to the components. Think about that. If we will not say that the set point or even the entire functionality of the thermostat is fluff, but we will say developing our mindset is fluff. We will say that positioning ourselves to develop our mindset is fluff, or sending people to training only to focus on their mindset is fluff. Focusing on personal and professional development is fluff. Really? So you're saying that a person's propensity is not important. You're saying that your own propensity is not important. It's just fluff. How can that be the case when the mindset or the set point of the mind is such that it gives regard to what it is that we are more likely to do? Think about this, going back to inclinations. A person's natural tendency or urge to act or feel in a particular way. Do you want somebody who has a mindset that is selfish, meaning a mind set on selfishness? No, because their propensity and their disposition as it pertains to their urge to act or feel in a particular way is ultimately to do that which is more in their interest rather than the interest of what matters most. Mindset, right? So let me talk about why mindset is so important. So I mentioned the thermostat. If you got 80 degrees outside, that's hot, and you want it to cool off on the inside, you need to have your set point on the thermostat lower than that in order to say, hey, I want you to create an atmosphere in here that is predictably cool on the basis of this particular temperature. And it has to be predictable, it has to be focused, it has to be clear, but it also has to be in opposition of the temperature on the outside, in the sense of it's got to be at a temperature that's less than that temperature in order to bring down the temperature inside of the space that is being cooled. You got to do that, all right? But watch this. What if you have the setting at the right point, but the thermostat is on the outside of the house? And not only is the setting on the outside of the house, also all the cooling functions are blowing the air on the outside of the house. Is it going to cool the space on the inside? No. So that means that the thermostat must also be engaged in the right environment, in the right conditions, and be providing value to the right environment. Same thing with mindset. First and foremost, mindset has to be understood to be pivotal, simply because whatever the mind is set on will determine what the focus and the pursuits are of that individual in that environment or that organization. Remember, this is about natural tendency, urge to act or feel in a particular way. It's a disposition, it's a propensity, right? And so if we don't really give attentiveness to our mindset being well, then our mindset can be disruptive and destructive, because the natural tendency or urge to act or feel in a certain way can be disruptive in so many regards, right? And so remember, wellness is the state of being well. It is the intention for there to be wellness as a focus, right? It is the opposite of sick. It is the opposite of hurt or painful. There is a propensity for there to be absolute wellness and flow, right? One of the things that corresponds to well-being is this word prosperity. Prosperity being really the depth of a constant, continuous, abundant flow, right? So when you have wellness of mindset, there's strength of mindset, right? There's also sensibility of mindset. There's excellence of mindset. There's clarity of mindset. And then there's value of mindset. Okay. And so within the context of mindset, not being fluff is so important that we know not only do you work on your mindset and you give value to your mindset, and that it's not fluff, but you got to also make sure you apply the functionalities and the constructs, the applications, the usage, the strength of your mindset in the right ways, in the right times, at the right places, right? Just like the thermostat. You have the thermostat outside and all your cooling and heating functions on the outside. There's no point. Like, you got to use your mindset well, use it right, and in the right time frames, at the right purposes, for the right reasons, right? And so one of the things that I like to share in regards to mindset is, I mentioned this a little bit yesterday, and I'm not going to go into too much detail because I just really want to focus on the mindset piece. But I mentioned the 5 layers of success in life, right, on day 4. And I mentioned it because I was talking about some of the constructs in regard to wealth. But there's 5 layers of success in life. So think about life as just this space, right? And in life, there's layers of success. From surface level all the way in, we start with money, okay? Then we got measures. Then we have momentum. Then we have mechanics. And then we have mindset, all right? Now, the unique aspect about mindset in the construct of these layers is it's at the core. And I always ask the question, if you take out any of these particular layers, which one, if you take it out, will cause the whole thing to collapse? Well, guess what? I've heard people say, take out money, but it's not going to collapse. You take out money, but it's not going to collapse. You take out momentum, it's not going to collapse. You even take out mechanics, it's not going to collapse. Why? It's not going to collapse because you have a well-established core. If you take out the core, everything is going to collapse because the core is the representation of the foundation. Now, let me ask you a question. If you go and live in a house that doesn't have a foundation, are you going to be in that house much longer if you have a flood? You can be in it. It might be floating down the river of the flood. No pun intended to anybody who's dealt with that, but I'm just saying that's the truth. Okay. The other thought process is, so I grew up where we lived in a manufactured home. Back in the day, they call it a trailer home. I didn't like calling it trailer home. I actually loved the idea when they actually started calling it a manufactured home. But here's one of the things I noticed. People would talk about us living in a manufactured home or trailer, however you want to look at it. And I remember being on the bus one day going to a basketball game, and my teammates were literally trying to find somebody to just rail on. So they decided to jump on. When they jumped on me, they ended up, make sure I got my stuff. All right. When they jumped on me, they started talking about, this Leonard, this is going by my government name. This Leonard, and he, his dad in the front seat driving they vehicle down, house down the road. And I was like, what y'all mean driving my house down the road? We don't have no steering wheel or nothing in our house. Like, it's fixed. And they were perplexed because everybody thought that I lived in a mobile trailer. They used to call it a mobile home. They thought we lived in like the travel trailer. I was so fascinated that they thought that. I literally laughed at them while they were trying to laugh at me. Here's my point. I never thought, even while they were joking about me all those years or all that time that they were doing so, that our house, even though it was a trailer, it was still on a firm foundation. One, it was fixed to the ground. It was stabilized to the ground. It was on the ground itself. And it was affixed to it. Even though it didn't have concrete under it, it was affixed. And it was designed to have a stability of flooring that was very firm. I was like, but I was young, when people talking about you just feel bad, right? Here's why I bring that up. If you have doubt about your foundation, if you have not well established your foundation, if you have not given yourself to understand the value and the benefit and the representation, the validity of your foundation, guess what? You're going to question everything about your environment. You're going to question all of your value, your strength, and your capability. That's mindset. Which is why you have to be very intentional about your mindset more than you are about any of the other layers that contribute to success in life, right? You can have all the mechanics in the world, have a poor mindset, just like the thermostat. The thermostat has all of the components in order for it to cool or heat effectively. But if the thermostat is not working properly, guess what? It doesn't matter. People are going to be either hot or cold, comparable to the conditions on the outside. Same thing. You've got to make sure that you give an appropriate attentiveness to your mindset. There must be wellness in your mindset. Otherwise, you're going to have some problems. And I just need to make sure I emphasize this before I get out of here. Mindset wellness is not fluff. Focusing on your mindset is not fluff. In the same way that making sure your thermostat is on the appropriate set point is not fluff. Making sure your thermostat is working is not fluff. Making sure your thermostat is working when it's supposed to working is not fluff. Why? Who would ignore their inclinations? Who would ignore the natural tendency or urge to act or feel in a particular way? Who would disregard the disposition or the propensity that contributes to the value you're able to produce? Only someone who does not understand the value, one, of the mindset and the importance of making sure you have wellness in your mindset. See, let me say this before I go. It is important that you pursue wellness intentionally. Otherwise, if you fail to pursue wellness intentionally, you are likely to, by default, get whatever the casualness of the environment is going to produce. You don't want that. And as it pertains to your mindset, let me ask you this question. Two things. One, would you want a casual thermostat? It just feels like it wants to come on whenever it wants to come on and do whatever it wants to do? No. Would you want a foundation that's shaky, that's rocky, that's not stabilized, that's on sand, and it's not actually able to give you some type of footing or solid footing? No. You want all those things that are providing you with the stability of firmness so that you can actually have a predictability in what those conditions are designed to be corresponded to. Same thing with the mindset. And as a matter of fact, if you are with a company that is of any value and has any weight in salt, that's an old school term if you're not sure about it. Guess what? They have a mindset. And they value their mindset. It's called the mission, vision, values. It's called our policies and procedures. It's called what our purpose is. It's called what our product is, who our customer is, what our niche is. It's all with regard to the mindset. It's our system and our strategy. It's all mindset. So let me say this. If you have value for your company having a mindset and it being a strong mindset, and you even helping to build and develop the mindset, but you have a casualness about your mindset, you think it's fluff? You might want to think about that. You might want to question that. Why? Because if your mindset, going back to the 5 layers of success in life, if your mindset is removed or not given the attentiveness or the wellness that it ought to have, everything else is going to collapse in your life. How do I know? Perfect analogy. If the thermostat set point is where it ought to be, and that system does not turn on, nothing else will be able to function. I've seen it too many times. I've changed out a lot of thermostats, and guess what I discovered? Exactly what I just told you, which is why I emphasize helping people to deal with their mindset, especially at certain points in time. I'll tell you this as I get ready to go. If you got somebody who can make a lot of money, but they have a poor mindset, there's going to come a point where they will not be able to make a lot of money, or they can still make a lot of money and they will feel just terrible doing it. Why? Because there's something wrong with their mindset that needs to be addressed, that they are avoiding and needs to be dealt with so that they can have this harmony within themselves. So that when they make the money, there's a great value in how they make the money, why they make the money, and what they get from making the money. Okay, Leo got to get off his podium here, get out of here. I just want to make sure you know, mindset, wellness is not fluff. Mindset is not fluff. And if you think it is, keep following me. You'll find out how much fluff it ain't, and you'll be able to find out how much you can eliminate the fluff as well. Listen, you be well. And before I say what I often say, make sure if you are on Instagram, you are liking and sharing and what's that thing? You're commenting and storying and all of that kind of stuff. Following as well. Follow the wellness professor. We're gonna make sure you are well. Okay. Then if you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, do all that stuff, especially on YouTube. Go ahead and like, share, comment. So do it. And then, as I often say, be great. You hear me now? You take care. And we'll see you next time. Yeah.